For all their differences, I find myself thinking that fire and darkness are oftentimes a lot alike. You see, fire wants to devour anything that it touches. You can almost say that fire sometimes seems to have a life of its own as it hops and pops and tries to just eat up anything that it touches. Fire devours. And yet, while we don't often think about darkness like that, while we don't often think about darkness having a light of its own, a life of its own, I think we used to. I think you could talk to any 5-year-old and realize that there is that moment where they're lying in their bed in the midst of a darkened room, perhaps only a small island of light in that ocean of darkness. And as they lie there, they just get this sense of something ominous, something unruly, something evil lurking in the dark. This sense that that darkness just has a weight to it, that there's something real there, that there's something heavy there, that it's pressing against that single little bit of light left in the room, trying to just snuff it out, trying to devour even that last bit of light and everything left in it. I think there's maybe something wise in the midst of that child's fear. Because I think that child intuitively senses something that we have numbed ourselves to, something that we try to forget, and only so often remember when we jerk awake in the midst of the night, a cold sweat upon our brow, this deep sense of fear, of dread, of oppression hanging upon us, desperate to even catch the faintest glimpse of light. And see, that child knows that darkness is corrupted. That something about that darkness is not the way that it's supposed to be, that it isn't the way it was made. That darkness seeks to devour. And really, we're no different. We have that same stain of corruption, that same stain of darkness that is constantly seeking to devour in our lives. We take good, created things in the world around us, and we seek to twist them for our own ends. We seek to devour them, to make them do our bidding, to make them do what we want them to do. We take beauty and love, and we turn it into lust. Seeking more and more pleasure, seeking more and more gain, always looking for the next pleasure on the horizon. We take food and drink and we turn it into gluttony. Seeking more and more, eating just one more bite, taking just one more drink. And all the while, our bloated bodies stumble drunkenly through a world that's just full of want. We take the gift of companionship, the gift of love in our lives, and we just try to get more and more from those people who care about us most, all the while being hesitant to give even the slightest bit back. We take our knowledge, our intellect, and we twist it into pride, certain that the world is supposed to do what we want it to do. We seek more and more and more. We take our jobs, our money, and we're convinced that we just need a little bit more. We take good gifts and we devour them, twisting them to our own purposes. And all the while that darkness spreads. That darkness draws us closer to an even deeper darkness, to a darkness that no one can escape. To a great gaping maw that awaits at the end. To just a cavernous dark that devours everything it touches. And all the while we consume more and more, seeking to put as much distance as we can between us and that darkness of death. And so perhaps it isn't any surprise that when that light came into our midst, how quickly our palms were consumed. How quickly our shouts of joy and praise were turned to howls of hatred. Perhaps it's no wonder that those people who claim that they loved the light the most abandoned it, scattering into the darkness, even betraying it, handing it over to the dark. Perhaps it's no wonder that as that light tried to speak truth in the world, we plugged our ears and shouted out blasphemy, scared of what that light might reveal about us. Perhaps it's no wonder that as we saw this great gift that we couldn't use to our own ends, we sought to rid ourselves of it. We sought to drive it away, to snuff it out. We nailed it between the sky and the earth. And as that light hung there between the sky and the earth which it had created, you can almost picture that darkness. That darkness that's within us, that darkness that lurks on the doorstep, the darkness of every time and every place, every darkness that has been and will be swirling around this light. That heavy weight pressing down upon him, seeking to snuff him out. Even creation gave in to that darkness, the sun disappearing under the weight of all that evil, all that sin, all that devouring. Swirling about this light, gibbering with ghastly glee as they looked on at the light struggling, fading. Even that last darkness, death opening its maw, opening its jaws wide, seeking to snuff out that light once and for all. And finally, with a broken sigh, death's jaws snapped shut with a joyful howl that was echoed throughout the darkness. Except, even in the midst of what seemed like total dark, even as it seemed that that light had surely been defeated, an ember still glowed. You don't know how you missed it at first, because now it just seems all-encompassing. A brilliant light that's shining out in the midst of that darkness. A light that is consuming that darkness within you. That corrupted dark in the world. Even that darkness of death. That darkness fleeing before it, seeking the deepest corner it can find to hide. And that light shining for all to see. You see it now. Even in the midst of that darkness, even in the midst of sin, even in the midst of death itself, the light shines in the darkness. And the darkness has not overcome it. Amen.
It's Friday. Jesus is praying. Peter's asleep. Judas is betraying. But Sunday's coming. It's Friday. Pilate's struggling. The council is conspiring. The crowd is vilifying. They don't even know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The disciples are running like sheep without a shepherd. Mary's crying. Peter is denying. But they don't know that Sundays are coming. It's Friday. The Romans beat my Jesus. They robe him in scarlet. They crown him with thorns. But they don't know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. See Jesus walking to Calvary. His blood dripping. His body stumbling. And his spirit's burdened. But you see, it's only Friday. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The world's winning. People are sinning. And evil's grinning. It's Friday. The soldiers nailed my Savior's hands to the cross. They nailed my Savior's feet to the cross. And then they raised him up next to criminals. It's Friday. But let me tell you something. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The disciples are questioning what has happened to their king. And the Pharisees are celebrating that their scheming has been achieved. But they don't know it's only Friday. Sunday's coming. It's Friday. He's hanging on the cross, feeling forsaken by his Father, left alone and dying. Can nobody save him? Oh, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. It's Friday, the earth trembles, the sky grows dark, my King yields his spirit. It's Friday, hope is lost, death has won, sin has conquered, and Satan's just a laughing. It's Friday. Jesus is buried. A soldier stands guard, and a rock is rolled into place. But it's Friday. It is only Friday. Sunday is a coming.